Yes, I am aware of the ironicness here is that we are doing a pre-title sequence video on my own video on a video of the top 10 James Bond pre-title sequences. The pre-title sequences of James Bond's films is just something I always get excited about. I don't know about you all, but that moment after the gun barrel sequence where it just opens up into something and you don't know exactly where you are yet or what's happening, it is just really exciting in one aspect and something I very much look forward to in every single James Bond film. Whether we open underwater, whether we open in a city, or whether we open to just... it could just be absolutely anything from the snowy peaks to a potential... it just could be anywhere. It really is exciting, and these title sequences have got a whole life of their own. They have a reputation of being these massive action, if you will, finale set pieces right at the beginning of the Bond movies to get you really excited and preemptive of what is to come. Normally they connect to something later down the line in the film. Maybe they're sometimes on just their own little mini adventures. It could just be an absolutely anything. But for me, as a Bond fan, I always still to this day get super hyped and super excited about these sequences. And I wanted to share that love with you all here. And before we get started on that, everyone, why not consider giving us a subscribe down below? We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It would be truly great if you could help us get there. And do also comment down below and tell me your personal favourite pre-title sequences. But before we get into the actual list of pre-title sequences here, we're going to talk about my honourable and dishonourable mention. My honourable mention would have to be the From Russia with Love title sequence, if you will, the first pre-title sequence. I think it's absolutely brilliant, just not as good as the others down the line. I love the idea of it's Bond versus assassin in a maze. It sounds brilliant, and it is brilliant. Right, onto my dishonorable mention, and that would absolutely be, without a shadow of a doubt, Quantum of Solace. This sequence is just, the editing is awful, the shots don't look that great, I don't think the car chase sequence is that very good, and it really does set the tone for the film that you're going to get, and I'm not a fan very much of Quantum of Solace. So for me, in my opinion, probably the worst James Bond film, it does also have the worst pre-title sequence. Right, with both of those out of the way, let's get into the first ranking of my top 10 pre-title sequences, starting with number 10. We'll talk about setting up a great mystery for your film. The opening of The Spy Who Loved Me wonderfully sets up a really big world crisis with two nuclear submarines just disappearing, and you're just wondering what has happened to them. It is absolutely amazing. While also doing that, it also really sets up our two male leads really well. You've got Bond and you've got Major and Massiver, just done so wonderfully well and so sort of conjunction towards each other. And then of course the sequence just really builds up, and it just shows you, as I mentioned, the stakes of what is actually going to come. And the finale of the sequence, that incredible ski chase, and then one of the most memorable moments in the Bond franchise, that amazing jump. I don't know about you, but when I first saw that Spy Who Loved Me massive ski jump, and still I think to this day, I still slightly just hold my breath and just watching like... I just love this title sequence of how it really gets me behind this movie already in the first few minutes, and I just can't wait to see the rest. The For Your Eyes Only pre-title sequence is just a pure kids fantasy, and I absolutely love it. It starts pretty seriously and quite mellow with Bond visiting Tracy's grave, which even as a kid I really love that little continuity aspect to it. And there's a nice, between missions, Bond still does visit it every now and then. I think it just adds a lot to his character. But then it goes into what I can only describe as one of the most amazing stunt spectacles with a helicopter I've ever seen put on film. Seriously, this is a child's fantasy, and something that when I was a kid, I will admit, this scene a lot I imitated. I just loved how dangerous it was and how skillfully Bond is here, and it ends with this weird note with Blofeld though. Though of course we must remember, this isn't actually Blofeld. This title sequence is just pure ultimate Bond fan imagination, something really that stands the test of time and is one of my favourite moments in the entire Bond franchise. Goldfinger is probably the pre-title sequence that really establishes the Bond pre-title sequence. It has a bit of everything: stealth, thriller, explosions, suave and sophistication, and a brutal ending. I love how this sequence, it's just Connery being the GOAT. He is playing Bond here like no one else I think has really ever done as well. He's showing all sides of the character, And you know what? Who doesn't just love that classic bird on top of your head? The bird on top of your head while you're being undercover? It's traditional! Goldfinger is just one of those fun joy rides from start to finish. It's a movie which I love every second of, and this pre-title sequence is just got a bit of everything for everyone, and it's well worth watching just this sequence on its own. Tomorrow Dies' pre-title sequence for me holds a really special place in my heart. It's just from a boyhood wonder of the character. I really didn't know, if I'm absolutely honest, at the age of, 6, 7, what was really going on the first time I watched it. But boy, this action sequence got me super excited. This for me was, if you will, the definitive big explosion action sequence pre-titles that I have to say has great cinematography, great editing, and you never get lost with it as well. It's such a badass sequence. It also ends on a really cool and simple dogfight and a great one-liner at the end.
Backseat driver.
This title sequence for me has something truly fantastic and still to this day so memorable. In my mind, I would very much recommend to everybody to check it out. Moonraker's pre-title sequence obviously shares a lot with our number 10 slot, The Spy Who Loved Me. However, it takes what it did in that one and goes up to the 10th level. You start with a similar mystery and a kidnap of the Moonraker shuttle, and then into M's office again, and then the big stunt. But for reasons this is ranked so high in comparison to Spy Who Loved Me, it is this stunt piece. The free-for-all sequence for me is just one of those top 10 moments again in the Bond franchise. It would certainly be high up, we're talking about in the top 3 here. It's such an amazing feat, it's so cinematic, it's so incredible. Heck, the inclusion of Jaws for me, the boy who was terrified of the character, he terrified my dreams thrown in, is just that little extra sweet cherry on top. It's so different as well from other action sequences in general and from anything that really had come before or has been. Moonraker for me has gone to space, but the pre-title sequence was truly the moment where it was just out of this world with spectacle and putting the biggest smile on my face. And look, Jaws trying to fly. No Time to Die had the longest pre-title sequence to date, and also for me one that carries so much story, emotion, drama, action, and actually horror, which you don't see too much actually about in the Bond movies. I love this pre-title sequence for all the reasons, and just really how quickly it flows. Seriously, it's like nearly 20 minutes, and you don't even realise you've been watching the movie already for about 20 minutes or so. This title sequence gives us a flashback, which could be just a straight out of a horror film, which also gives us going to some amazing scenery in Italy, and this amazing action sequence topping off, in my opinion, with some of the greatest moments ever in the franchise with the Aston Martin DB5. It goes on from third, and then you've got the great drama and story between Bond and Madeline. My god, there is so much in this title sequence, and understandably that crammed all in 20 minutes. It really is just breathtaking. You know what, after nearly 6 years away from Bond and just waiting for No Time to Die, the pre-title sequence brought me the biggest smile I can remember. Bond was back, and it was back in a big way, and this pre-title sequence, in my opinion, was made just for us fans. The first pre-title sequence I ever saw, Goldeneye, and the one probably is also at the same time my benchmark title sequence. This, as I just mentioned, is the first title sequence I ever saw, and my first exposure, actually, when you think about it, to the world of James Bond. So naturally, it's definitely on this list. That great jam jump still to this day takes my breath away. It also sets up, I think, 006 very well. Again, I'd never watched a Bond film before this, but with this dialogue, I believe 006 was probably in previous Bond movies of how good friends they were. It was also really nice to have about 2/3 of the sequence be something you don't normally see in these pre-title sequences, which is mainly the idea of being stealthy. The main focus of sneaking around and staying undetected, spying at its best. When it does go into the big fight and then the motorcycle sequence and then catching the plane at the end, it just feels really well earned. It feels organic. As I mentioned, GoldenEye's pre-title sequence really works for me because it really introduced me to the whole world of James Bond, and I think it introduced a whole new generation to James Bond. Enough said. What I really love about Casino Royale's pre-title sequence is actually how small but immensely powerful it is. This is Bond earning his 00 number, a big seismic moment in Bond history, and never really actually seen on screen. Heck, it's only really briefly mentioned actually in the Casino Royale novel. This is a man learning the cost and the effect of killing what it has on a person while learning to remain detached from it, and it really does show throughout this whole sequence. The title sequence is so stylized. It really is, if you will, a proper mini movie unto itself. It's so brutal, it's cold, it gives such edge of your seat gripping drama, and the dialogue in this just sequence is just so fantastic.
Well, you needn't worry. The second is... Yes. Considerably.
I actually also really love the fact it is shot in black and white, because honestly, I think if you did this whole sequence in colour, I feel honestly it would just lose something. I can't really explain it better, but just if I was to have watched this whole sequence in colour, I just don't think it would have had the same edge. The Casino Royale pre-title sequence is a perfect example of doing something smaller maybe for your pre-title sequence, but by no means less powerful. The only pre-title sequence on this is which doesn't really properly feature Bond, the Man with the Golden Gun, and honestly, I'm glad, because talk about a build-up for your villain for Bond to face off. This is one of the sequences right from the opening shot I just immediately fell in love with. I could talk on and on and on, but suffice to say, the Funhouse is epic, and this is one of my favourite things in the Bond series. Again, Scaramanga, Christopher Lee, is such an icon and is such a badass in this sequence, as well as setting up perfectly the bad guy, learning so much about him. It's tense, it's nail-biting, and you just want to see what happens next. While the rest of the film might be slightly cringe and camp, this sequence showed me the true potential of what the film could have been. And now it's time for my #1 favourite pre-title sequence of all time. My personal favourite pre-title sequence of all time, Skyfall, and this for me gets the most excited, the most right, just yes, awesome, keep going, this is fantastic. Oh, just I love the Skyfall pre-title sequence. It just makes me want to carry on watching, and yes, for me, a unique spin on just simply just action sequences again in general. I love how it almost have, if you will, this Russian doll feel where you go from one thing, go to something else and something else and something else, like going like bigger and bigger and bigger. It starts off, with the list of agents going missing, and then from there it goes on from a car to a shootout, then to a bike, to train, and it just does this so seamlessly. I'm just wowed by all these moments in this whole sequence. It's just awesome, like the bit where Bond goes from the bike to the train, just wow. It's awesome, and again, Bond on a train, as I've always said in my films, it's just always pure movie magic. I also feel its climax really carries a big punch, even though we all know Bond's not really dead. But I think of all the title sequences that have tried to pretend like Bond is dead, this one really made you feel it. The Skyfall pre-title sequence for me is just 10 out of 10. Show me James Bond summed up. I want to get someone excited and hyped and get them into James Bond. What would I show them? Well, I'll show them the Skyfall pre-title sequence. It just makes me feel so excited and so happy. Heck, I'm probably going to, after recording this video, go watch it again. Well everyone, that is my top 10 pre-title sequences. I want to know, do you like my list? Do you not like my list? I don't know. Comment down below, tell me what you think. Do you think I missed one out? Do you think I was maybe too lenient on one? I want to know. As always everyone, my name's Henry Stevens and I'm the Bond Geek. Goodbye.